Is there some filter still in humanity's future? The vastness of the universe is something we can't get our heads around. In practice, this universe is infinite, as we will never be able to visit or even see most of it. It is also old, really old, nearly 14 billion years old. In recent years, everywhere we look, scientists have started to detect the essential building blocks of life, and yet, all we hear is silence, a cosmic and eerie silence. No signals, no megastructures, no visitors. After 6 decades of targeted SETI observations, scanning radio and optical wavelengths, we've detected nothing. Hello, Dr. Alejo here. We have explored in other episodes how scientists have debated about the existence or no existence of other extraterrestrial civilizations. The truth is that in reference to life in the universe, we only have a sample of one, Earth-like life, a life we humans, of course, are part of. Using our own experience, how confident are we that we will survive? How long do we have? Is the worst behind or it's still ahead of us? In the context of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, the Fermi Paradox refers to the ubiquity of life on Earth and our observation of how widespread the building blocks of life are in the universe, in contradiction to the fact that we don't hear from anyone out there. I mean, life on Earth is everywhere, not only on the surface and in the oceans, but literally everywhere, at extreme temperatures, both low and high, in dry, wet, acidic, and alkaline environments that resemble a lot of what scientists have found in the variety of exoplanets out there. Also, we pretty much hear daily reports of the essential blocks of life being found somewhere in the universe. These have been found in giant dust clouds, thousands of light years away, in the icy moons orbiting the solar system's gas and ice giants, and in asteroids like the Bennu asteroid from samples collected by NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission and reported in January 2026. But after 60 years of searching and listening for aliens, no one seems to be out there. We have a full episode dedicated to the Fermi Paradox. In there, we explore some possible solutions to the paradox, as well discuss some philosophical aspects of it. I invite you to check it out. But what if life is indeed widespread, but there are situations or filters that life on planets must overcome? The concept of the gray filter was introduced by Robin Hanson, a professor of economics at George Mason University. Professor Hanson, though, holds a bachelor's degree and a Master of Science in Physics, as well as a PhD in Social Sciences. Professor Hanson's argument states that humanity seems to have a bright future in terms of interplanetary expansion. We have been improving our space exploration capabilities. We have sent probes to every planet in the solar system, collected samples from asteroids and comets, and landed in our natural satellite. It's more than likely that within the next 10 years, we will see permanent bases established on the moon, and it is more than likely that we will witness the first person to set foot on Mars. But given how old and vast the universe is, why we don't see signs of these space exploration activities of other civilizations out there? Professor Hanson contemplates the idea that perhaps these civilizations have succumbed to filters, 7 filters to be precise, that we humans have already overcome, and some that may encounter in our future. The first filter life needs to overcome is to actually come into existence. In the Drake equation, which we have also reviewed in a previous episode, Frank Drake calculates the number of possible alien civilizations in the Milky Way. His equation considers stars that are capable of hosting planets, which at the same time are capable of harboring life. That is, the star needs to have the right materials and chemical elements for a rocky planet to form, and be at the right distance so liquid water can exist on the planet's surface. In addition, an abundance of what are considered the essential building blocks of life need to exist. These are essentially 6 elements which make up approximately 98% of all life on Earth: carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. So, in a planet where these conditions don't exist, that would be the end of it. But if you have the right conditions, just coming to existence is not enough. The second filter talks about the ability of life to replicate. Modern life on Earth is based on DNA. Now, I won't pretend to be an expert in biology, but there is an apparent chicken and egg scenario for life on Earth. DNA stores genetic information, but is unable to catalyze reactions. For this, DNA needs proteins, which are the ones that execute chemistry. But proteins are encoded by the DNA. But there is a solution. Scientists believe that early life on Earth was RNA-based. RNA can both store information and catalyze reactions without the help of proteins, making it a really good candidate for early life. Later, evolution may have split these roles in DNA, long-term stable storage of information, and proteins, capable of highly efficient catalysis. So, if life somewhere else did indeed come into existence but lacked the ability to self-replicate, that would be the end of it. The third filter refers to how simple life was the dominant life on Earth for 2 billion years. The oldest confirmed life on Earth comes from fossil evidence dating back roughly 3.5 billion years ago. This is only around 700 million years after the formation of Earth. The first unicellular life was extremely simple. No nucleus, no membrane-bound organelles, just a cell membrane enclosing DNA, ribosomes, and cytoplasms. Despite this apparent simplicity, life was still able to diversify. Some organisms developed the ability to photosynthesis or extracting energy from sunlight, others to chemosynthesis or extracting energy from inorganic chemical reactions, and use that energy to convert carbon dioxide into organic matter. Others developed the ability to perform nitrogen fixation, which is the process that converts atmospheric nitrogen gas into chemically usable forms, like ammonia. But for 2 billion years, this was life on Earth. Life on other planets may not be able to overcome this prokaryotic phase and remain on a primitive state forever. Now, DNA evidence indicates that 1.8 to 2.1 billion years ago, some prokaryotic organism, to be specific an archaeal cell, decided to have lunch one day and engulfed a bacterial cell. But for some reason, instead of digesting it, the archaeal decided to keep the engulfed bacteria. The engulfed bacterium eventually became the mitochondrion. This allowed the increase of cellular energy availability, eventually enabling gene complexity. Some biologists argue that this step may have occurred only once in Earth's history, suggesting it could be rare in the universe. This event could have paved the way for the origin of eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells contain a nucleus where the DNA is enclosed within a membrane. They also have sophisticated membrane-bound organelles. Imagine then a planet where this jump from prokaryotic to eukaryotic cells didn't happen. Perhaps in that planet, that prokaryotic organism didn't like the aspect or the taste of the bacteria. That led to the appearance of mitochondria as it happened here on Earth. But even with the appearance of eukaryotic cells, organisms on Earth were still single-celled. And of course, all complex life on Earth, plants and animals, which include us, are multicellular. However, one important step for the appearance of multicellular organisms could have been the invention of sexual reproduction. But don't get any weird ideas. Sexual reproduction is actually defined as the mixing of genetic material from two parents. Sexual reproduction allows the purge of harmful mutations, generates genetic diversity to defeat parasites and pathogens, and repairs DNA damage through recombination. Without sexual reproduction, the rate of evolutionary innovation that we observe for life on Earth couldn't have happened. Definitely not in multicellular life. The fossils of multicellular animals date from roughly 600 to 800 million years ago. This means that over a billion years, eukaryotes existed, but didn't produce anything macroscopically complex. They remained microscopic and relatively simple. You may think that from a survival point of view, it makes sense to go from unicellular to multicellular, but not really. This transition implied that cells that have spent billions of years evolving to survive and reproduce as individuals somehow decided to stop being selfish and decided to form a collective, to develop a form of life that is comprised of a mutual arrangement of cooperation with the sole purpose of creating a new individual, a multicellular organism. This has profound implications, as cells started to specialize on individual tasks with no way to go back to being genetic. This also implied the development of intercellular communication and signaling systems. More importantly, some cells even relinquished their right to reproduce. In a complex multicellular organism, you have cells referred to as germ cells, which are the ones that carry the genetic information to the next generation, sperm and eggs, for instance. And then you have somatic cells. These cells' function is to allow the organism to live. Neuron, muscle cells, liver cells, etc. These don't have the ability to pass genes directly to the next generation. What if in another planet, the jump from unicellular to multicellular life didn't occur? What if those cells over there weren't that selfless like our ancestors here on Earth? Okay, now we have multicellular organisms. What about intelligence? Coming back to the Drake equation, the factor F sub I talks about the fraction of planets that harbor life where human-like intelligence appears. Now, I'm not entirely sure if some sort of intelligence could have appeared on unicellular organisms, but definitely on Earth, intelligent life has only emerged in multicellular organisms. Particularly, we humans developed culture, symbolic language, abstract reasoning, and of course, technology. Many animals on Earth do actually exhibit many of these traits and even use some form of rudimentary tools. For instance, octopuses have been filmed using shells as portable shelters. Birds, elephants, and fish have also been observed using a variety of tools. Beavers use sticks, pieces of large wood, mud to build dams. But definitely no other species on Earth have achieved the level of technology we humans have achieved. We are not limited by distances anymore. We can have instantaneous communications with another human that is literally at the other side of the world. We don't need to walk for years or sail for months to get to other parts of Earth anymore. But is human-like intelligence a natural consequence of all evolved life? What if we have worlds teeming with intelligent-like octopuses or intelligent-like whales, capable of communication and basic tools use, but incapable of ever developing a radio telescope or spaceship? This list of 7 filters is not supposed to be a comprehensive list. There could be heaps of other circumstances that we may potentially never know about. But all these filters we humans have successfully gone through. They are behind us. But what is ahead? 65 million years ago, the dominant species, the dinosaurs, were pretty much wiped out by an asteroid of approximately 10 to 15 kilometers. Is there any other asteroid we don't know about, perhaps lurking in the darkness of the universe with the Earth as target? A nearby supernova could also be in the cards. These are the result of the death of a massive star which could send a high amount of gamma rays, potentially causing severe mass extinctions. If we are on that path, that wouldn't just be the end of humans, but the end of all life on Earth. However, the filter could not only come from the skies. Earth's own geological past is not one that has always been kind to life on Earth. On the contrary, it has been an active and violent player in the definition of life on Earth. Plate tectonics, volcanism, earthquakes. These same processes that make Earth habitable as we know it by enabling carbon and nutrient cycling, building mountains, creating diverse ecosystems, generating Earth's magnetic field, could also cause the extinction of human life in the blink of an eye. There is also a filter which unfortunately hits too close to home still in the year 2026. The COVID-19 pandemic has killed more than 7 million people worldwide since its appearance in 2019. Unfortunately, scientists agree that this won't be the last pandemic we will see. A pathogen that has a high transmissibility and high lethality across all demographics is rare, but not impossible. Such a pandemic could come naturally or it could be bioengineered. The advancements in gene editing could cause, by accident or on purpose, the decimation of large parts of the population, reducing our capacity to survive as species. And then there is our own technology. On many occasions, the world has also been on the brink of a nuclear war. This is not a new threat. During more than 40 years, in a period known as the Cold War, the former Soviet Union and the USA had the nuclear warheads pointing to each other. The world was sort of relieved when these two superpowers signed the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, or START agreement, back in July 31st, 1991, by the then US President George Bush and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. A bilateral agreement that required nearly 30% reduction in strategic nuclear weapons. The agreement was then ratified by former US President Barack Obama and Russian President Dmitry Medvedev in April 2010. This new START required both countries to notify each other of specific strategic activities such as missile test launches and heavy bomber movements, share detailed information about the quantity of missiles and delivery systems, and allow on-site inspections. Good stuff, eh? Well, not so much. On the 5th of February 2026, a month ago actually, the new START expired and no one really did too much to prevent this from happening. The current US President, Mr. Trump, said, if it expires, it expires. We'll do a better agreement. While recording this episode, geopolitical tensions are rising between the USA and Iran. Unfortunately, a nuclear war is a very serious and latent great filter for humanity, and for any advanced civilization that could have reached nuclear power. And then there is AI. You may be old enough to have watched the 90s Terminator movies. Or you could be young enough that you have no idea what Skynet is. In the Terminator franchise, Skynet is an artificial intelligence, AI, entity that becomes self-aware and spreads across the globe by using the internet. In the film, the AI solution to the survival of the majority of the species in the world is the annihilation of the human race. It does this by essentially using the superpower's nuclear arsenal and tricking them, causing them to attack each other. This is not the only franchise that has explored this scenario. In the Matrix movies, machines also become self-conscious and decide that the best course of action for the planet Earth is to essentially subjugate the human race. We are at a point where such scenarios don't seem that far away anymore. AI is being used as a tool in many fields of science, but it is also being used by the military with the aim of designing fully autonomous arms capable of taking their own decisions without requiring human interventions. In other words, AI could have decided that their makers are not needed anymore and opted for taking control of their own destiny. Life on Earth has overcome many filters. Unfortunately, it seems many of them are still ahead. The gray filter is not really a theory. It is a highly speculative hypothesis that intends to explain and make some sense of the great silence we observe. However, that great silence can also be explained by two possible scenarios. One, we are the only intelligent civilization in the universe. After all, given all the circumstances that life on Earth has experienced, it's not that crazy to think that other life in the universe has not been as lucky as we have. A second scenario is that we are not the only one but just the first intelligent civilization in the universe. Perhaps life on other planets is still moving from prokaryote to eukaryote. Perhaps life on other planets has not developed sexual reproduction or making the jump to multicellular life. Perhaps other species are still in caves, trying to ignite a fire to keep them warm during those cold nights. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and press the bell icon so you don't miss future uploads. Also, don't forget to check my book, A Story of More Than 5,000 Worlds, where we explore many SETI-related topics. In the episode the Silurian hypothesis, we explore the possibility of humans not being the first industrial civilization on Earth. Could a civilization that preceded us have suffered the fate of their own gray filter? What do you think? Let me know in the comments your opinion about the gray filter and if you think such a filter is still ahead of us. That's it for now, and remember, the truth is out there.